Oh, everybody's got a shot of Steven's butt right there?
You're welcome.
All right, well, thank you for joining us live here. One of the last podcasts for Geek Elite Radio in 2018. This is the Mitch and Rich Show. And as you can see, Richard, we have a few guests with us.
Yes, we do.
Fan, or not fan, but person.
I am a very big fan of the show.
Okay, well, he's a fan of the show, but that's not what I tried to say. You know, a person that's been on the show, a favorite of our show before, 2 years ago came on, talked about the top movies of 2016?
16.
So, Rafa.
2 years ago was.
Yeah.
Whatever 2 years ago was.
Welcome. I'm Mobile Rafi. I am here to talk with my best friends about movies, and hopefully we'll enjoy this cinematic adventure together.
And then over to my right is Steven, who's been a big part of Geek Elite Radio as of late.
That's true.
He's now a staple on Geeks Watch.
That's true.
So
I like that show. Right now we're watching Castle Rock.
Castle Rock. We need to finish that up.
The last couple
Last couple episodes. So how have you thought about films this year?
So I tended to stay away from the cinema.
Ah.
I discovered when you asked me about that. I was surprised. I think it's been more of a bit of a TV year for me.
Okay.
Which, I mean, those happen.
Yeah.
I guess that's just what I needed.
I feel like Richard had the same to say this year about his movies watching.
I did, yeah. Mine was not by choice. Mine was just purely by happenstance, unfortunately.
So were you a big subscriber for Movie Pass, and then the rug got pulled out from under you? Is that what happened?
Yes. No.
I actually did have Movie Pass.
You did, yeah. You did have Movie Pass kind of slap you in the face,
yeah,
and knock you around, whip you silly. No, it was mostly just it was just life, just busy with work and school and things like that. So I just didn't really get a lot of time to go. And it's really unfortunate because, like, to me, like, going to the movies is like such a huge, like, reward, for myself. Like, it's like one of those things that I'm just super passionate about. So, like, not having the ability to do it as much is unfortunate. However, I think one of the other things we'll probably get into when we're going is I also feel like this year wasn't particularly a good year for movies.
Agreed.
Comparatively speaking, at least,
I agree.
But I feel like the movies that were great were like really great, but like it was far and few in between, if that's the right way to say that.
Roughly.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
that makes sense.
Do you think that that's what that was, or do you think that those other movies just seem so great by contrast to all of the?
I mean, that's a possibility.
5 out of 10s that were.
When I went through the list of 2018 movies, I did have a good amount of trouble like picking what top 5 were for me and why they were the top 5.
I had a hard time picking a top 5 because I didn't feel like any of them deserved a top 5.
Really?
Yeah, all except for 1 or 2.
Okay.
One is sitting in my top 5, and it is precariously balanced.
I think it's been a year saturated with, now, a lot of people still go to the cinema, but a big part of it is it's all about blockbusters. We're getting a lot more of those, with superheroes still out in the forefront, but not even with that. Some people still go to Sundance and those kinds of things, of course. That's not going away, but now a lot of movies are coming out straight through, like, the streaming services.
Which is awesome.
Like Netflix, which is cool, yeah. I just wonder how much this is going to continue as far as a trend. And whether or not the movies... Well, again, because it's... When you go see a movie, it's really pick your flavor. Are you going there to escape? Are you going there to see something beautiful? It really depends on what you're going for. And now that streaming is such a big thing and it's the way we're going, what's going to happen next, right?
Well, I mean, for me, like, I kind of wish that there were a few more of the big movies that had been on the streaming services. So, like, Annihilation in Japan, that came out straight to Netflix.
Really?
And that sounds freaking wonderful. But that's not what we
But
got here.
the director, which I'm blanking on his name at the moment, he made the movie specifically for theaters, though. Like he even talked about that. He was upset that outside of the United States, it went straight to Netflix.
I just feel like maybe it wasn't a theater movie. I don't know.
I mean, most Americans now, we have theaters in our own homes. So,
I think in my pocket.
I have my A4 HD 627 TV.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't have that.
That's absolutely true. But I feel like I will never get rid of the movie theater experience.
I agree.
I like the movie theater.
Yeah.
However, I loved when I got to watch. Oh my gosh, I forget the name right now. Arrival for the first time. I watched Arrival for the first time in my VR headset in my room.
I bet that was pretty awesome.
It was amazing. It was so much better because the parts that were silent, which is a lot of the movie, were silent. There was no person just...
Or the popcorn rustling.
Nothing. None of that stuff. So I was very happy. I don't know.
And I think with the movie going experience is sometimes either, I mean, I've gone to a lot of movies by myself this year, and I feel that's something that I've enjoyed a lot more as well. Because a lot of the times, especially when you go see a comedy or something like that,
Right.
it's kind of like that laugh track. Something makes you laugh and it makes everybody else laugh with you. And there's just too many experiences where someone brings in an infant that shouldn't be in there, or there's that one those groups of people that are just making way too much noise. So it's really hit or miss a lot of the times.
I don't know. It's like theater. The theater experience is a weird one. I was happy to be in the theater with the people I went with, though.
Yeah.
So that being said, let's get into it.
Let's definitely get into it. I guess we each have different top fives, I would assume. I mean, probably not going to be too many crossovers, but...
Spoilers, they're all the same movie.
Ha-ha! That's right. The camera's over here. That's the screen. Okay. But I did have a few honorable mentions that I wanted to throw out there before we start.
Mentions first.
Yeah. So I put, and surprise, surprise, I put all the Marvel movies as a honorable mention. Black
That's fair.
Panther,
Okay.
Infinity War, and Ant-Man and Wasp. I loved them. I had a great time watching all of them, but I just didn't feel like they broke the top five for me.
There's a Marvel joint that's not in there.
No, well that's associated with Marvel.
A Marvel joint.
Yeah, see, that one did make it.
Okay.
So that's why.
Curious.
Okay. Also, A Quiet Place and Bird Box. I kind of lumped those two together. I thought they were great. Bohemian Rhapsody, and I know a lot of people will talk about how that's not really a great movie, but I felt like the music and Rami Malek's performance pushed me through, and actually the rest of the band's performance actually pushed me through for that movie, even though it's lacking in story.
I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Rafa. But didn't Andy say he went and saw the movie twice?
I think he did.
I saw it twice.
That's crazy to me. I never see movies twice.
Ever?
Never. I've done it a couple times, but Spider-Verse was one of the first times.
It feels good because
need
you're
to
able
see
to
that sometime.
rewatch some of those things that you missed the first time.
Anybody else have any honorable mentions they want to throw out there first?
Rafa has a list.
I do have a list. There's our specific movies that I really enjoyed. But again, it's all about whenever I'm looking at a movie, I try to look at the film as far as, is this something that I would watch again? Coupled with, did the performances make me feel something? Was there a substantial moment? Or kind of like whenever I think of films, I think of those goosebump moments. There are those specific films where you go back, such as, for me, it's Back to the Future. Every time that they're playing when they're in the dance scene and he's disappearing, Marty McFly, and then they're playing the song, and then what's his name stands up to the guy, he's like, I'm gonna dance with her, not you, and punches him. And they're just playing the song, and just all of that. It's one of those goosebump moments. So I'm looking for those in the films as well. And then also how they utilize sound and cinematography with everything. So I mean, you can say movies are objective sometimes, but it's still a very personalized experience.
Yeah.
And depending on the director or what they do, you have likes and misses. But really, when I'm looking at it, things that I would give really big honorable mentions, one would be Leave No Trace. That movie came out this year with Ben Foster.
Uh-huh.
Ben Foster, one of the best actors of our generation. I love that man.
It's so underrated.
So underrated. And he was amazing in that movie with newcomer, I forget her first name, but her last name is Mackenzie. I forget her first name, but strong, powerful performance. I watched that, and beautiful film.
Was that a Netflix
from-
movie?
The Lady from Blade Runner?
I watched it on Amazon Video.
Oh, okay.
You talking about the Lady from Blade Runner?
I don't think she was in
no,
Blade
no, it's a little girl.
Oh, okay.
You're
It's a
talking
little
about,
girl,
right?
yeah. She's like 14 or
Not Davis.
15.
Mackenzie Davis?
Mackenzie Davis, yeah.
But
Love
great
of my
movie. Other films, like I really had a good time in theaters watching Black Panther.
Yeah.
I had a good time watching Venom. I had a good time watching Upgrade, which I didn't know anything about, and then I watched it.
You mean the better Venom movie?
The better Venom movie. I love The Predator. The Predator, something I wasn't looking forward to, and just ended up being a great film.
I had a great time at The Predator. I think that movie gets way too much flack for people. I think people just, were like, oh, it's not the original. It's like, well, it's not supposed to be the original.
Right.
I agree with that one. I think you guys are doing a whole lot of hit like revisionist history to try to justify the $7 you lost.
I don't feel like I lost it.
You were robbed.
I don't. I did not.
I love all things Wolfenstein. I love zombies, so of course I loved Overlord. I thought that was a really fun film. And then, I always have a soft spot in my heart for John Krasinski, so A Quiet Place was great. But those were all good movies that I enjoyed. I'd watch again, but they didn't have that extra factor that made me go, this is in my top 5.
Richard? You had a hard enough time getting top 5, let alone honorable mention?
I have like a list here. I just don't know exactly which is going to be. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants right now because I have a list and I'm still not entirely sure which one I'm going to edge in the top 5 here. So I might have an honorable mention after we get through this, but I don't know. Like I said, I just unfortunately didn't get to really watch a ton of movies this year, and it really sucks because you guys are talking about all these movies, and I'm like, yep, that was one I wanted to watch. That was one I wanted to watch. Oh, that sounded great. Where was that?
That was the entirety of when Mitch was listing movies earlier.
Yeah, that's true.
I was like, that one.
So, did you have any honorable mentions, Steven?
So my honorable mentions are
Princess
as follows.
Mononoke.
No, that's just every year. Everyone go watch it.
I did get to see that for the first time this year because of you, Steven.
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
We went through hell and back for that.
We did.
So my honorable mentions, I put Cloverfield Paradox in there, even though I did like it. It's not a top 5 for me.
Okay.
Overlord fell in there also, but that was mostly because of the people that I watched it with. I had a good time there. It wasn't for the movie.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then Avengers: Infinity War, really good movie, really really good movie. But listen, man, I only have space for so many superhero movies in my top 5. Mission Impossible convinced me to like a Mission Impossible movie.
Like
What the hell?
convinced you to like it as a movie as opposed to the whole franchise?
I mean, it didn't make me like all of Mission Impossible.
Just that
but
movie.
this one itself
was
great. I like the first
I
Mission
really
Impossible
enjoyed that movie.
and this one that just came out.
Oh wow!
The rest of the ones in the middle, I don't really care.
You get lost in Henry Cavill's mustache.
It's easy.
It was such a powerful mustache too.
Fierce mustache. It was so strong it destroyed all of Justice League.
Oh.
But no, and then after that, A Quiet Place, and then Fahrenheit 451, the HBO one. It was very good.
That was a good one. Michael B. Jordan and
Forget that
one of Richard's favorite actors. Man, the dude
Help
from
us out,
Premium
Chad.
Rush, and Shape of Water, and what's his name?
Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon. Thank
Yeah,
you.
there you go. I was like, I don't know who you're talking
reaching
about.
for right now. Yeah, Michael Shannon.
He's
Midnight
in all
Special,
those movies. Midnight Special.
which I still haven't watched, and I feel bad. I have it on DVD. Haven't watched it.
It's not bad.
It looks good.
It's interesting. So, and before we really get started with our top 5, I wanted to say the ones that I wanted to see but didn't get a chance to see. Won't You Be My Neighbor, Destroyer, Vice, Welcome to Morrowind, Anna and the Apocalypse, Mandy, Roma, Greenback, Frontrunner, Mid-90s, Assassination Nation, and A Private War. So those are movies that I wanted to see, didn't get a chance to see. Feel like some of them might have been on my top 5 if I had.
In my head, what was the last one you said? Private War?
A Private War with Rosamund Pike.
In my head, that is just Tinker Tailor Soldier
Do
Spy.
you see how the 2 meters are moving?
Uh-huh.
Do you want to just mute one of those? I think that's why we're getting echo.
Oh, is there? Oh, I
Oh,
got
is there
you.
an echo?
Yeah,
I
I
think
got
that's
you.
what it is if you want to hit that.
Let's find out together, guys.
Okay, so
Might help.
I will go first if that works, since Steven's going to go and work on that.
On
that
that,
actually does look really good. Fly Retails, but I did hear that there was a lot of not so great reviews for it. The
Which
Welcome
movie?
to Morrowind.
Oh, yeah, I heard there wasn't a lot of great reviews either, but I think it looks great. And
I like the concept if nothing else.
and
nothing comes to my mind. What movie is that?
it's the Steve Carell movie where he has the action.
Oh, okay, yeah,
figures
I know
and-
now.
yeah.
Okay.
And it's directed by God, why am I?
John Krasinski.
No, it's the guy who directed like Forrest Gump.
Oh,
Anna
Todd
Faris.
McFarlane.
Todd McFarlane.
Tom McFarlane directing a movie. All right. Also, real quick, did we hit record on Audacity?
We did not.
This is it, guys.
Pro-grade streaming at its finest. Were we doing that or no?
No, it's okay. We're just. You said we can get it off this, right?
Yeah.
If your Twitch is set to archive.
That's a good question.
Well, this will be a lost episode if it doesn't.
It says that there is one video here,
So it's not
From
that
recently.
big a deal.
All right.
so it would seem like it does.
So my number 5 movie. So we're gonna go 5-1.
Yeah.
That makes the most.
I was
Oh yeah.
right.
And if anyone,
bottom, now we here.
now we hear, if any of the movies that you say are on any of your guys' list, feel free to speak up about it.
Yep. So my number 5 movie is Searching. I really enjoyed this movie. It
What
brought.
were you searching for?
I was searching for John Cho and his beautiful eyes.
Oh.
You found it,
I
baby.
found them because they are a big focus in that movie because it's all screen life. Like I had seen all those trailers for those unfriended movies. Yeah, the like social media
Like dark
horror
web.
movies. Yeah, dark.
There was also
web.
an episode of Modern Family where they did something like that too.
Oh, I think I remember seeing that.
What?
But
Is that a thing?
that's what screen life is now. It's like it's the idea of you're seeing the whole thing through a screen.
Okay.
So the I didn't think I would like it. I thought it would be another
Another gimmick.
gimmick like
Found footage?
Found footage. Thank you.
I know
And
what you're
Which is
thinking.
great.
I hate found footage movies.
Mistake.
Chronicle is the only one that I enjoy.
Mistake.
Chronicle is very good.
Chronicle, shaky camera, get out of here.
Indeed.
I don't like
Get it,
Cloverfield.
Rich.
I don't like Cloverfield, which is interesting because
okay.
that will come up
You're
later.
crazy.
Okay. I'm curious to see where this goes.
So, yeah, the screen life film, the idea of it, they're using a lot of FaceTime with iPhones and I don't. A lot of it was I just thought they did a really good job of telling a story in a very compact medium and being able to, and they stretch it because like the camera's on while he's sleeping and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and it doesn't really make any sense. But it still worked for me. Directed by Anesh Changli. I'm sorry. He'd only done a bunch of shorts before that, and he also wrote it with Sev Ohanan. The actors were John Cho, Deborah Messing, and Michelle La. And I just loved
Wait,
how
Deborah Messing?
yeah she's
What?
she plays the detective that's searching for his daughter. Because his
Okay.
daughter, in the movie, his daughter goes missing. I'm sorry, I didn't say that. But his daughter goes missing, and it's all about him trying to track her down and figure it out through, like, going through her computer and her social media.
Okay. Does he have a certain set of skills?
So like a PG
Not
version
really.
of Taken.
His skills are kind of more computer-based,
Okay.
but not really.
I know how to get in and clean out your cache. Like, I can clean out your cookies.
And then I just really liked how it kind of pulled you in a bunch of different directions with the plot. So,
Okay.
I hear it's a good movie, and I've always been interested in watching it, but never got around to it. But a lot of podcasts that I listen to talk very highly about it. So maybe one day it'll be like Sing Street.
There you
where I
go.
watch it after the fact, and like, this is my new number one as it happens. On my end, my number 5 pick. This was really hard because this one and my number 4 can kind of move back and forth. But what I have to pick for my number 5 was "You Were Never Really Here"
Okay.
by Lynn Ramsey. I love the movie Drive with Ryan Gosling. This movie felt very akin to that, and it has one of the best performances I've ever seen in an actor with Joaquin Phoenix, who's great at what he does. This is a film where it's very self-involved in the sense where you're seeing things from the perspective of Joaquin's character, and you never know what's real and what isn't real. This movie is all about trauma and the way trauma stays with you no matter how old you are. And there's all kinds of things you can really lead up to it and kind of go, either this really did happen or this didn't happen. But the basic premise is simple. Joaquin Phoenix is a dude who's just working to find kidnapped girls and bringing the kidnappers to justice.
That's the plot of The Golden Child.
Bam.
that is the plot of the Golden Child.
Chandler Gerald is trying to find one girl.
But the thing is, this movie feels more like a panic attack that's happening at all levels. Lots of slow parts, but when it picks up, it goes 100. And it hits really hard because there's a lot of gratuitous violence, but whenever it happens, it's all shown through like cameras that are recording, or it cuts away for a second, so you know what's happening, you hear it, but you're never fully involved in it.
Interesting.
This was one that I really, really wanted to see as well, because I remember watching the trailer and like he's like walking around with the hammer, which instantly made me think Old Boy,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Which is a callback to that.
Why does it always
there
come back
that?
to Old Boy with you?
Because that movie's been fantastic.
It's true.
And
Old
it's
Boy is
important
great.
which Old Boy you're talking about.
Oh,
The
he only
original,
likes
the
the
Chark
original.
Pan-
Yeah, he
Chark
doesn't.
Pan-
Okay.
Chark. I can't even talk. Park Chan-wook, that version, the original version that he did is phenomenal. No, the other thing is like it's another like Asian horror film, but like when you were talking about it, it instantly made me think of The Audition.
Yes.
Because that's exactly how they sell a lot of the violence in that movie. Like where, spoiler alert, everybody, especially you, Wizard. Because I know he loves horror films. But like, there's a part where they're like cutting someone's like leg off with a piano wire. And you don't really see it, but you can hear it. And it's even more disturbing than if you were to see it. So like I'm gonna have to move this up to my list of movies to watch. Like
please do. It's filled with strong performances, and like I said, there's a lot of ambiguity in it, so you can kind of decide exactly what's really going on, and I think that allows the moviegoer to really become more invested in it. And so I think that's really cool. And then the ending is very weird, which I really enjoyed. And it has that melancholic feeling, which I like in my movies, where it's kind of a happy ending, but not really. So it's one of those things. So I'd highly recommend. My number 5 for sure would be You Were Never Really Here.
Nice. Okay. Now, Joaquin Phoenix did that movie and Sister Brothers this year, right?
I believe so, yes.
And that's another one that I wanted to go. I wanted to see, but didn't get a chance to. But like, yeah, I think that's interesting that he had 2 movies out this year that didn't really get that much advertisement, like marketing.
I think it's a hidden gem for sure. I feel it's kind of like this year's Nice Guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Whereas Nice Guys was something where you can watch and it's really good. I mean, the style and the tone of the films are very different. But as far as the star power and then just the nuanced performance, fantastic.
That's fair. Richard?
It's like I said, I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I think my number 5 is going to be A Quiet Place. I know it was interesting because a lot of you had it like on your like honorable mentions, but it just wasn't quiet.
And it was great.
So in honor of that, I'm just going to sit here silent.
That's not good.
Okay, no, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a really interesting movie, and I think even before the movie got released, there was kind of like a lot of questions about the film because there was a lot of back and forth as to whether or not this was a Cloverfield movie. And I guess at some point it was supposed to be, and then there was like the script got moved around like a whole bunch, and it ended up kind of not happening that way. And I almost feel like it's better that it didn't happen that way. Because I really think that would have taken away from the movie. I remember, I think we talked about this on the podcast, Mitch, when we were doing it, but I really liked the movie a lot, but I did have a lot of like criticisms for it as well. Like there was just a lot of things that felt like contrivances in terms of the story, and there was a particular moment like where he has that conversation with his son at the waterfall, and like I wish that wouldn't have happened. Like, I wish we would have gotten all the way to the movie without anything being spoken until that last moment where he tells his kids he loves them. Yeah. And I think for me as an audience member, I think that would have just heightened that experience up. Like if that was literally the only line in the movie was just him screaming to his kids and then he gets murked. I don't know. I just think it would have really, really kicked it over the top for me. And then it's also really interesting too because this was John Krasinski's like directorial debut.
What a great one too!
And yeah, right. Like I mean, coming out of the gate strong. You know what I mean? So like, I'm really excited to see where he's gonna go next. I think it was for me kind of similar to like the situation that happened with
Jordan Peele.
Yeah, Jordan Peele with Get Out. Like that was just something that I don't think anybody was really expecting. And then when you watch that movie, you're kind of in awe of how well put together it is. And like, even though there are some things in this that I feel like are, you know, pragmatic of him being a first-time director, like you said, it's such a strong first showing that like I'm just hyped to see where he's gonna go next and like what he's gonna tackle as a director.
And can you make sure that yours does have your switch turned on?
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Check.
Hopefully it's a little better for you guys. Sorry about that.
But no, you make a really good point. And I'm talking about a movie going to the movies, like physically going there. What a magical experience for me watching that and everybody just silent as you're watching this film. So yeah, no, that's a wonderful.
Yeah, I think that definitely played a lot into that movie of, you know, being able to hear everybody in the theater breathe because no one wants to make any noise because you're that engrossed in the film. I think the only reason why it stayed off of my top 5 list is because there were some very predictable parts. And and I think maybe the very end is a little sloppy. It's not tight, but
so much.
Right?
The part when he said when he yells at this kid like I love you or whatever, I was like,
cool. Okay, I thought you guys were talking about the shotgun scene because that was a good scene. That was the best scene. That's what I wanted to see.
But yeah, that movie does. I felt like it really held you throughout the whole thing. So,
and shout out to those cool ass monster aliens. They look really cool.
Indeed.
Yeah.
They were super cool. And so it's my turn to say my number 5.
Your number 5, Steven.
All right. So my number 5 is actually Mary and the Witch's Flower. I don't know if that came out this year, but I watched it for the first time this year.
Okay.
Regardless, if anything, I'll say it came out late last year.
It was last year.
It was last year?
I just looked it up.
So Mary and the Witch's Flower is the newest, the first big release from Studio Panak, or however you're supposed to say it, which is all the people who were Studio Ghibli members before. So they went and they adapted this book as is, par for the course for Studio Ghibli, and they made this great film. I think it's great. It's traditional animation with a little mix in of CG here and there when it's appropriate. It was just really good, and it felt good to get back into that kind of like lighthearted and warm feeling situation for a movie again.
That's awesome.
I recommend it.
Now,
rent it.
This is one of the things that I was glad that you're going to be joining on because I knew there's going to be movies that I'd never even heard of before.
That's what I'm here for.
So yeah, there you go.
I think the cool thing about it, I've never heard of this either, and like I was just looking it up to check the release date. And the cool thing about it is that like what you're saying, like if you are a fan of that animation style, like it looks very, very similar to that, which I think is nice because that's gonna kind of give you some comfort in, because that's a problem I have a lot of times is like I'm like, oh, I really only like a specific art style for anime or whatever, right? And so sometimes it's difficult to kind of find that similar style. So I think if there are people out there that maybe are really only willing to go into that type of art style, like this is going to be another one you're going to be totally comfortable watching because it has the exact like identical look to it according to what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, it's a good time. Everyone go watch it.
All right, Rafa, what's your number 4?
So my number 4, going off of animation, which I believe is going to be on some other people's lists as well.
Is this going to be this low on your list?
Was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Okay, now look.
Number 4. Oh my god.
A lot of great films. I love superhero films, and this is a year where I really, really delved into Spider-Man because I wanted to read the Spider-Verse story. So I went back and Chris, who's also part of Geek Elite, he really made a good job of telling me what to read. And so I went back. I read a lot of stories all the way from the beginning parts to introduction of Miles to the Ultimate Universe, kind of rereading and reading some new stories. And so I've been on this Spider-Man just hook for the longest time. When I went to go see the movie, I don't know what it was. It could have been one of those things where I just wasn't in the mood because at that point, for some reason, I wanted to watch Aquaman instead. So I was like, I remember telling Steven in the theater. I'm not really hype right now. I would have been more hype if it had been the week before.
You came out hyped though.
I did. That's the thing.
That's important.
Not only did this movie change my mindset like the first 3 minutes in, but this is a movie where I had a smile on my face the entire time. Talk about a film, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I know some of you will talk about it at length as well. But for me, what I liked about this film is that every level of it felt important. This was a good superhero film, but not just a good superhero film. It was a good film of growing up. It was about hitting puberty. It was about being that new person and throwing yourselves into new situations in a world that you don't understand. Kind of on top of that, lots of great music. The soundtrack was dope. I bought it the next day when it came out. And just the visuals itself were just some of the best animation I've ever seen. And there were so many great moments. So overall, number 4, because there were 3 other films that I feel did other things for me, but I loved it.
So as Rafa mentioned earlier, Chris is part of Geek Elite Radio. He and I do the Imagine If show on Wednesday nights. Make sure to tune in for that podcast whenever you can.
Christopher Frenifer?
That's right.
Frenifer?
Not Frenifer, but I mean, I'm not Mitchard either, but you called me that, so that's why I did. Anybody else would like to bring up anything? Because I do have that on my list, so I will
Indeed.
talk about it more later.
It is
Is it on everybody else's list?
we
too?
all
It is
do,
higher
yeah.
up on my
Okay,
list.
so
Yeah.
Go see that movie. It's really good.
obviously that's
Yeah.
what we're all going to agree on. That is within the top 5. So
I'm just super excited to see what else is on your list because like I know where it's at on mine. I'm like number 4, like
The other 3 are just Aquaman.
right.
It's true. You caught me.
Don't give my number 1 away.
Richard, then what is your number 4?
My number 4. Okay, so I guess it was a few years back now. I sat down and I read a little novel that was super heavy into like the 80s and video games and had every intellectual property known to man. And then Mr. Steven Spielberg picked it up to make it a movie. And I remember thinking, dear God, this is never going to happen because how on earth are they going to get all of that into one movie? And it is called Ready Player One, for those of you that don't know what we're talking about. Yeah, I instantly fell in love with the novel when I was reading it. It's just so phenomenal. I mean, like, I am such a huge gamer, and like video games have always been a massive part of like my life, as has film, and just 80s pop culture in general is just such a wonderful moment in pop culture history. And this book and movie are both just completely oozing and chock full of greatness across the board. The visual fidelity was amazing. I don't know. It's really difficult for me to say. I mean, like, obviously, there's some things that they changed from the novel to the film that
Some?
didn't. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Some?
There was a lot, but there was some that I just really didn't think needed to be changed. But even though it was, I think it was still a strong enough showing on its own, and it still had those moments that I was looking for and the connections to the characters that I was really looking for, that it was enough for me to separate the two. I still think the book is better, obviously, but that's almost always the case. So, I mean, it's hard not to do that. But yeah, that was my number 4.
There was one thing that I thought was a critical failing in the movie. Anything else they changed, I would have been fine with. Throw in The Shining, I don't care. It's fine. But then there's a part where they're in this house, and I forget her name right now, but the love interest that shared between
Artemis.
Yeah.
the love interest that shared between essentially Steve Jobs and Wozniak.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
The lady who's
Og
the love,
and
Morrow.
and Morrow, yeah. There's a part in there where there's like a fake version of her that's set up by Morrow,
Right.
James Morrow, to be in this situation where she's essentially in peril. Which she's like dancing and she's like scared, like above this like empty ground situation.
The haunted mansion looking.
Yeah, very,
scene.
very haunted mansion looking. But yeah, like she's in peril in there, and there's no way in any way, shape, or form that I think that he would have put her in danger, even in this fake version of her. So I think that was a critical
even to
misunderstanding.
the point where that if it was him that's saving her, it's making him seem like the hero.
Don't think it would have mattered. Plus, he knew that he wasn't going to be the one doing this quest.
That's true.
So I do not like that.
That's valid. Like I said, I agree. There are inevitably flaws and things that are in there. Like for me, one of the
Ultraman.
biggest things was the discovery of the first key. Like, I love how that happens in the book, and I get why they changed it for the
Yeah.
movie to be more visual.
Yeah.
But that's something that I would have actually liked to have seen played out the way that it was. But again, I think it stands strong enough on its own that, like, for me at least, I'm able to separate those and enjoy it for what it
for
is.
me it's that last 20 minutes of that movie that really puts it over the top for me. Like I enjoyed it because of that last 20 minutes, that giant battle scene.
Ooh, it's so good.
Um
Felt like when you were a kid playing with all your action figures.
oh yes, exactly. But I just felt like if they were going to do that movie right, they should have split it into 3 movies. Like the book lays it out for each key to be a movie to me, and I feel like it should have been more Indiana Jones than it was.
It could have been a TV show.
Okay.
Yeah, it could
like,
definitely
even
have
like a
been
miniseries.
serialized. Yeah, something
Battlestar
like that.
Galactica was good.
So I was disappointed in the execution, but I enjoyed watching it. If that's
I
makes
agree.
sense.
I feel
I
like
think this
that's
is-
like the like serious thing though. Like I feel like that's almost everything now. Like there's so many like
Yeah.
things that come out where I'm just like, we don't need to make it as. I mean, we're spending $10 million on one fight sequence in Game of Thrones. We can do everything as shows now. Like you know what I mean? Like
But then look at we get the flip side of that coin where they stretch out one Hobbit book into 3 movies.
that. Okay, that's true.
Why do they do that?
That is true.
But you know, But then you have things like the CW shows that made Elseworlds this year. You know, that is a movie. That is a cinematic movie made into 3 episodes right there on television, and that's
I have that cut.
and you can listen to us talk about that on Televised Heroics, also on Geek Elite Radio.
Shameless plug.
So, Steven, what is your number 4?
Oh my god, I gotta look. So my number 4 is apparently Upgrade. Those are the numbers I assigned. So I enjoyed Upgrade, like Rafa said earlier. I believe you mentioned this in your
His honorable
mentions.
Yes.
Upgrade was great, and like exactly like you said, it is just the better Venom movie in every way, shape, or form.
It literally is the Venom movie you wanted,
like in all of the ways.
Yeah.
How did they do it? They even made it like a cyberpunk Venom.
Yes.
Like, of course I want this. They got off-brand Tom Hardy to star.
Oh my goodness, I keep
Poor
forgetting
Logan Marshall
that.
Green.
Yeah, Logan Marshall Green, who looks so much like Tom Hardy.
That poor man.
I like to call him the diet Tom
Oh.
Hardy.
Diet Tom
He's
Hardy.
like the diet
He's
Tom
Great
Hardy.
value Tom Hardy.
But a great actor in his own.
Oh, absolutely.
Except in Prometheus. The only part where he sold me on what he was doing was that part where he looked in the mirror and he was surprised what was in his eye.
I liked him. I thought it was good.
I like Prometheus.
No, I love Prometheus. I like Prometheus way more than anyone should.
I enjoy Prometheus.
In Upgrade, the only thing that I didn't like was the actual end of the movie.
I loved the end of the film.
I like the end of the movie. It's just that the way that they lead up to it, they telegraphed it from like so early on.
Yeah.
I leaned over to my friend Andy, friend of the show. I leaned over to him and I literally said what the ending was because I thought that there was going to be one more beat after that. And I felt bad because then like that happened and the credits rolled. Oh crap.
See, I didn't catch that. To me, the ending was one of those good, like, oh shit. I thought it was just like a longer version of a Black Mirror episode.
That's fair.
Ooh, yeah.
But I
Speaking
thought it was good overall because again, for you guys it was like a cyberpunk Venom. To me, it was like RoboCop meets any revenge movie, and I like those aspects because the fight scenes were great.
Yes,
the gore was shocking and good, and I like that it was a futuristic world. But it was still tied down into reality.
Right, yeah.
I like that.
And I liked the way that the fight scenes were shot. Like
that was the reason I watched it in the first place.
Because, too many fight scenes always are just too much cuts and just, shaking cameras. This was like very right there watching as the guy cut the other dude's head off.
With the kitchen knife. the one thing I wanted to say is that watching the film, this is a pretty big spoiler kind of thing.
I think we're okay.
But Wizard was like, I want to watch this.
Oh, sorry.
Wizard, it's not a real spoiler.
Spoiler alert.
So basically, there's a part where the bad guy who's supposed to have like invented things, he's the one who sets him up with this piece of technology and everything.
Yeah.
When he first is talking to him, I was like, wow, that is some bad acting. That is terrible acting. Later on, there's a turn on this, and then you understand why.
Yep.
And I hope to God that was intentional.
I like
that
to
would
think
be
it was
so good if they had done that on purpose.
I like to believe it was.
Yeah, I have to believe it was.
It would be so good.
Well, I was going to say something about the ending now, and I don't know if I should, if we're trying not to spoil anything.
I don't know. It's been a while.
I'm just trying to ecstatic it out.
All right, well, we'll move on to mine then, if that's okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. No, feel free.
So my number 4 movie is a movie that I feel like no one was talking about, Bad Samaritan. Now, this was directed by Dean Devlin, which I think most people know him as the creator and producer of The Librarians and
Those are good movies.
The Leverage show, TV show. So, yeah, The Librarian movies, and then they also had the TV show. Mm-hmm. He also wrote ID4 back in the day.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I did not know
And
this.
then directed Geostorm, so we don't want to talk about that one.
Geostorm.
But the writer of this was
Geostorm
also
podcast.
Brandon Boyce, who he's written a few other things, but the only other thing that I'd seen was At Pupil. The actors in it, and this is where it sold me this is why I saw it in the first place, is because it's David Tennant
Okay.
and Robert Sheehan.
Oh shit, dude, he's great.
Yeah. So
We
the
all
Doctor
love him.
and the Misfit.
Yeah.
So like
The
I love.
Misfit. And in this corner,
Who will win? One's immortal. They're both immortal.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that. So in this movie, the idea is that Robert Sheehan plays a character that breaks into houses, steals stuff because he's a valet, and
Okay.
when people were inside eating, he
He's got
drives
the
to their
keys.
house,
Yeah.
using their GPS, and then steals shit and comes back. When he's in David Tennant's house, he finds the little torture room that he has a girl strapped to a chair, and
He's Barty crouching her.
I don't know what that. Oh, yes. Yes, exactly. And
The imperious curse.
she is being tortured, and she's like, "Please help me," because she hears him scrounging around for stuff, and so the whole movie is him trying to get David Tennant arrested for this stuff, but he
can't say listen. While I was in the guy's house, because
stealing. Yeah, so it's a real creep movie, like super creepy. The acting is great, and just the idea of what are you going to do in certain situations plays out so well in that movie.
Was this a crazy year for Robert Sheehan?
I think so.
He did this. He was in Mute.
Mortal Engine.
He was in
Mortal Engines. Yeah.
Was that this year? Was
That's
it
this year.
Last couple years.
Yeah, well,
They pushed that movie back so far.
that's true.
But
And no one went and saw it this year. So
I forgot it came out already.
yeah.
But yeah, no, that, and then damn, a couple other things. He was in that movie where he basically played it was Moonwalkers a couple years ago. He was in that. He played
Oh, okay.
fake Stanley Kubrick, I believe.
Ah,
Yeah.
I mean he's
doing
blowing
it?
up.
Yeah.
I need to watch that movie.
Yeah, the movie's crazy.
Anybody else? Did anybody else see this movie other than me?
First Jessica Jones, now this.
Ah, that's right. Yeah, you see Jessica Jones.
Did you not watch Jessica Jones? Or is that the
No,
joke?
I'm just saying David Tennant. He's a
David
bad
Tennant.
guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
He's a
Wait,
bad man.
he likes playing bad guys.
he does. He does it
and
well.
Scrooge McDuck
When was he Scrooge McDuck?
all the time right now.
In the new DuckTales.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the voice of Scrooge McDuck.
All
So
the
yes,
time,
if
right?
all the
anything
episodes.
you take from my list this year is that everybody should see Bad Samaritan.
Did you watch that in the theater, or was this on a streaming platform?
It was on video on demand. I'm sure it
So
came
you
out
just
in
rented
theater
it?
somewhere. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So,
Interesting.
Richard, what is your number 3?
Oh boy.
Wait, are we on threes already?
Yeah, everybody did their full.
Damn,
Dude.
we fast.
Moving quick. So for me, my number 3, I don't know. I heard a good amount of mixed feedback about this, but I think a lot of it goes down to whether or not you're a fan of the director's previous work, and that would be Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs or Isle of Dog. I don't know. For me, I'm always
Is it singular?
It could be plural.
I think it's plural.
It is
Isle of
plural.
Okay.
Isle of Dogs. Yeah.
Okay, I was like, what?
My brain isn't working. But no, for me, I don't know. I'm always completely enamored and taken aback by stop motion animation. When you see any sort of behind the scenes type of stuff for it is just unbelievably ridiculous. The amount of work that they put into even the most minute detail that's in the background. And of course, that's only amplified by 1,000% because of Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
So I mean, literally. The color palette for everything, every little
those rich
zipper and
yellows.
patch and fabric choice, everything is just unbelievably flawless. And then you get into the cast, which is exactly what you would expect out of a Wes Anderson movie. I mean, there's just
It's
tons
those
and
6
tons
people.
of tons.
Jason Schwartzman's there.
No, man.
But I mean, it's basically Bryan Cranston is in this, which he's a phenomenal voice actor. But I mean, it literally has Edward Norton, Jeff Goldblum, Bill Murray, Greta Gerwig is in this, Frances McDormand. I mean, there is Scarlett Johansson, Harvey Keitel. I mean, there's literally just an unbelievable cast. And then you further that by getting into a really, really great story as well. And I mean, and it's told in the way that is pretty much only the way that I can imagine Wes Anderson actually doing it. I can't imagine anyone else really getting this movie and making it have this deadpan humor, but emotionally sensitive topics and just the overall perfection and the quirkiness. I just can't fathom anyone else doing this to the degree that he does. And then it's stop motion on top of it. I mean, I cannot get beyond that because, I mean, the sets that they have that they've crafted for this are just perfection. There's literally, times where there's lighting gags that are happening. So, I mean, you're literally seeing, stage lighting occur, in a particular part of
Yeah.
it. And it's just what in the heck? It's literally just so incredible to me. And if you're into Wes Anderson films, I would strongly recommend checking it out because it's a great movie.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I came to a realization with Wes Anderson movies recently. I love Wes Anderson films. I think
We
Bottle
can't
Rocket's
talk
very
anymore.
bad. Huh?
We can't talk anymore.
About Wes Anderson films?
No, just in general, because I can't stand
That's fair.
Wes
Mitch is
Anderson.
the only
I'll
one
talk
on
about them
this,
enough
this
True.
room that doesn't like Wes Anderson, I have a feeling.
That is true.
Everyone makes mistakes, Mitch. But no,
Okay,
so
it's not your flavor. That's fine.
yeah. To be fair, I hate like his first like 3 films.
Wow.
Don't like them at all.
Mistake.
I think Royal Tenenbaums is the only one that I can actually stand.
Rafa loves that movie so much.
Well, the Royal Tenenbaums is like a soft palette of color that slowly embodies you as you go into it. It envelops you in warmth.
The way
I agree.
Rafa just waxed
agree.
poetically about everything is amazing.
It's the Neil deGrasse Tyson effect.
Yeah.
Got it. But no, so for Wes Anderson films, there's this issue that I've had with movies recently and TV shows, where you're watching them and you know what's going to happen next because the framing changes or suddenly the shutter speed is different, so you know an action scene is going to come up. All these different things happen like that. Wes Anderson films aren't shot with any of those things. So like there's all these lockdown camera shots, so you don't necessarily know something's going to happen, because in his movies, typically if something happens, the camera just like hard pans right really fast and you're in the next scene or whatever. And there's nothing telegraphing that. It just happens.
I love it.
So watching his films, like I get to actually experience something without knowing all of the things that I've built up from having watched movies for the past 29 years. So I like that.
Also, it's like every movie he makes, it's like if the actors know they're in a play and they're performing something. And I like that about it too.
I agree. I totally agree.
But I have not watched I Love Dogs yet.
You should definitely check it out when you get a chance. Because, I mean, obviously you're into animation. I don't know if you're into stop motion
Very
animation
much
or
so.
not. But if you are, like, definitely watch the movie and then go back. They have, like, a bunch of, like, featurettes and stuff on,
I've
like,
already
the
watched
actual
those.
stuff.
You
Oh,
watched
my
the
God.
featurettes?
They
You
put
didn't
them
watch
onto
the movie?
YouTube before, and I couldn't get a hold of the movie before.
That's it. And
It's on HBO now.
I've
Yeah.
talked about this before. Is I have a real problem with stop motion animation, just because whenever I watch it, it seriously takes me out of the movie thinking about how much work goes into making a stop motion
That's
animation
fair.
movie.
Have you watched? Oh my gosh,
Jeez,
Kubo and the Two
Gromit.
Strings.
It's one of the only ones that I've actually liked.
Okay, because that one's masterful.
But it's not. I mean, it's not.
The plot's not crazy.
Yeah.
There's no turn. You know from the beginning, it's his grandpa.
Okay, Steven, what's your number 3?
Ah, shit.
He's not ready.
Let's find out which one I put a 3 on. So it turns out it was Bad Times at the El Royale.
Hey!
I liked that movie a lot. I would not have thought that it would have been in the top 5, but upon reviewing the films of the year, it is. And it's not at the bottom of the list either,
Hey.
which is interesting. At the end of the movie fell short. It fell flat for me.
Okay.
But honestly, at the end of the day, that was okay. I enjoyed the journey so much, and I liked everything that they were crafting in the beginning. They were taking their time with this story and this little piece of information, this one, and they made a whole basket before I realized it. It was great.
So high five, because that's my number 3 also. Hey, all right.
Segue.
So we had writer director Drew Goddard came in to make this movie. He wrote Buffy, he wrote Angel, he wrote Alias, he wrote Cloverfield, he wrote Lost, he wrote
What?
The Martian, he wrote Daredevil, he wrote X-Force and Sinister Six movies, which didn't get made.
It's probably
X-Force
better that
might
that
be
Sinister
coming
Six
out.
thing didn't happen.
He directed Cabin in the Woods, one of my favorite movies of all time, and then he is also the producer and directed the pilot episode of The Good Place.
Damn.
Yeah. So I am all for Drew Goddard and anything that he wants to make in the future.
He's done more with just that one, like with any one work that he's worked on, than I've done my whole life.
Well, I mean, I'd say you'd probably say the same thing the rest of us do. Then you have the great cast: Cynthia Evero, Ervio, yeah, Jeff Bridges, Dakota Johnson, John Hamm, Lewis Pullman, and Chris Hemsworth. And I really enjoyed this ensemble cast. The storytelling from the multiple views, and then literally, I usually hate this in movies, but in this one, it leaves you wanting so much more with everybody's story, and I was okay with that. Like I enjoyed that.
You could have seen way more of any of the individual characters,
Yes.
and it would have been fine.
And then the side characters were really good too. Like Nick Offerman's character at the beginning of the movie that's hiding the
Oh,
money.
yeah. Forgot he was in the movie.
Yeah, but he's a good part.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
and
he's
then
great.
whatever Cynthia's character, the singer, you know, what's going on with her back in L.A. Before she goes to Reno to sing.
And you see just the tiniest of flashbacks for hers.
But it's so
It's
good.
a volume by itself.
Yeah. So, anything else anybody would like to say about Bad Times?
I never saw it, so
Go and watch it.
So then, Rafa, what is your number 3?
okay. So my number 3 is the movie Mandy.
Nice.
Wanted to see it. We were supposed to. We keep forgetting. We keep pushing it off.
So Mandy.
Oh, Mandy, you came and you saw.
There's a lot going on in this movie. I can see why some people like it. I can see why some people love it. I can see why some people fucking hate it. A lot of it makes sense. For me, when I really break it down, I think of this is a surrealistic art house horror film with Nicolas Cage. His performance was good. Everybody's like saying like, "Oh, he's so great." Most of the time, he's yelling and he's
at
angry,
His true
That's what he-
I mean, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, isn't that the true
Yeah.
form of Nicolas Cage?
and that's fine. But this movie is set up in acts, so there's very specific things that are happening. The first part of the movie, it's a slow burn. So as you're kind of going through it, it's like, oh, okay, so it's another one of these slow movies, and then it just flips
I
out
was
of
going to
nowhere.
ask, because none of what I've seen seems slow
Yeah.
for this movie.
It takes a while to get going.
And once it gets
But
going,
once it does, yeah.
it doesn't stop.
Yep.
It's violent,
train.
it's gory, it's nasty, and it's so self-satisfying. Because you can say, and I would say, this movie comes off as very pretentious. There's a lot of parts where the shots take a very long time, close-ups, a lot of monologuing, a lot of this, colors and animations thrown in randomly with weird actual title shots coming up out of nowhere. You're thinking that it's actually like, oh, chapter 1 or chapter 2.
Well, you get like almost it's like you get almost halfway into the movie before the title card even pops up.
Yes.
It's Assassin's Creed.
And it's beautiful because it's like
It's Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
grindcore font, which is the best part. And what I liked about the film is, whereas there's a lot of revenge films that come out, this one is one of those films that leaves you satisfied. The villains are crazy. Nicolas Cage is crazy. The music is insane. Really, if you were to take the heaviest drug, this is what I feel like you would feel like by the end of it. Because honestly, at the end of the day, it's shot very nice. The themes are pretty interesting, and the performances are great, and the violence is right up there. And those are the reasons why I love this film.
Do you remember the movie Beyond the Black Rainbow?
I do.
Same guy.
Really?
Yep.
And it makes all the sense in the world.
It's the same writer director. I think his name is Panos Cosmatos. I'm
Yeah.
probably saying that wrong, but yeah. No, it's interesting though because you were the last on the number 3s, right?
Yeah, number 3.
Because this is my number 2.
Whoa! Look at the synergy.
So Rick Way.
All right. No, but I mean, I have to agree with you 100%. I went and watched this at Alamo Drafthouse. I was a huge fan of Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Bougie.
Yeah, well, it's not that. It was just that was like one of the only places that was showing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But to me, you're talking about the music being insane. Which it is, and it's also got that heavily like 80s vibe going on to it. But
does.
this is Johan Johansson's last scored
not a real
film
name.
before he passed away.
He's just a
And
crazy dude. That guy does good music.
he does amazing music, and a lot of people were really upset because they actually disqualified this film from the Academy Awards, which removed his ability to be nominated for his last score.
Oh.
And there was a lot of like kind of controversy around that. But I guess what ended up, my understanding of what happened is you have to show the film with 3 showings per day in LA County before it goes to VOD, and they only showed it twice a day. It went to VOD, and then a theater that was doing 3 showings a day kicked in, and so they just missed being able to have his score nominated by a couple of days, basically, which is really unfortunate because when you listen to the score of this film, it is effing incredible. Like, this
It's
is by
immersive.
far some of his best work. I agree. Like, there is probably a very large percentage of people that are not going to be able to watch this movie, that don't want anything to do with it. But it is like literally 121 minutes of demo reel for the cinematographer, which I think his name is Benjamin Loeb. And he really hasn't done a whole lot, but like, there is just a ridiculous nature to the way that this film is shot. The locations that they find like are beautiful. Like, and there's things that are beautiful really for no reason other than just being beautiful and to be juxtaposition against the grotesque nature of the gore and of the violence and the revenge that is happening. And I have to agree with you. It is just a hell of a ride. Like, it does take some commitment to get to that point, but like once the powder keg is ignited, like it is just unrelenting till the end of the movie. And they have kind of these like weird satanic biker dudes that you're not really sure if they're real people or demons.
It's nuts.
I like this already. This sounds great.
But
It's
like,
the crazy Cenobite monsters from Hellraiser, but on motorcycles.
This sounds like Super Jail.
You see Nicolas Cage
Super
just forging his own weapon.
Right?
It's fucking bonkers. And
It's
you make
such a good
really
movie,
great points with the idea of it's an immersive film.
Yeah.
When I first started watching it, yes, it's a slow burn, but I like those kinds of movies. And then once the payoff hits, before I knew it, it's like, oh, it's over.
Yep.
That happened fast. And again, there's something self-gratifying in the sense where you're in it, you're engrossed by the music, you're engrossed by the visuals. You make a very beautiful point about how the mise-en-scene really effectively is brought out. Also with the colors of the reds that just keep on coming out. And Nicolas Cage's character's name is Red in the movie.
Yep.
And he sees Red the entire time.
Pokemon movie.
So it's it's a great film.
I agree.
I'm glad he found a powder keg. Because Beyond the Black Rainbow, the whole movie's a slow burn.
It is a slow burn.
That's the whole movie.
It is.
It never finishes burning.
If you do like
just
that
goes.
movie, though, you will
It's
absolutely
beautiful.
love Mandy.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was interesting that we agreed on that one movie and then they agreed on that movie.
It's true. It's true. We're on these positions
I think
for
they
a
did.
reason.
Yeah, I think they didn't see the other movie that we talked about, or the one that
Which-
we they didn't see Bad
that's true.
Times, and,
And
then
we
we
didn't
haven't
see
seen
theirs.
Mandy.
Yeah. We have to trade.
There we go.
So that brings us to your number 2.
Let's find out. Two guys have.
Has anybody been saying anything? Any people on our channel been wanting us to say anything to us or anything? Ask
They
any
called you
questions?
bad and bougie
They
at one
did.
point.
They did. I said, "Don't judge me, wizard."
Oh,
A Wallace and Gromit joke. And a couple of things. No, nothing too crazy.
okay.
We've been interacting with them via
Yeah.
chat, so I'm keeping up with
But
them.
yeah, so my number 2 is a weird one. So I stayed away from superhero movies for 5-6 years, something like that.
And then you watched a whole bunch this year.
So damn many. They wouldn't stop putting them out. And you guys invited me to them, so I go.
Yeah,
I went and saw Aquaman, apparently.
you did. You did.
But no,
I was
It didn't make the
that's-
list, though.
that's definitely not your number 2, right?
no. It's crazy how that didn't end up.
No, the way you were building it, I was like, is Aquaman? Is
I was about to say
that where he's
Aquaman.
going with
Listen,
that?
man, it just got all these splash points
I was
from
like,
back
if-
when I loved Stargate Atlantis so much.
I was gonna say
Oh.
if you're gonna do Aquaman, then you need to like superimpose font over the thing and be like, my number 2 is Aquaman, and then you need to say my number 2 is Aquaman, because that's everything that happens in that movie. So bad.
But yeah, so no, it's actually Black Panther.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, Black Panther I enjoyed a lot. I am American. I am taught all through school about the Civil War and everything like that. This was the first time I cared about brothers and people of the same blood and culture fighting
Oh,
in any substantial way.
okay.
I was like, I understand why the Civil War was a problem now. So yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I thought that all of the characters they brought to the table for this one were great. And I don't know if it's because I haven't watched so many of the other Marvel movies or something, but I was surprised by characters. I forget his name, Watson, and the guy from I forget his name right now. It was Bilbo.
Yeah. Him.
Bilbo.
Freeman. Martin Freeman.
Yeah, Martin Freeman. Thank you. He did great.
He did.
Even he was good in the movie.
Yeah. Even?
Yeah.
I think usually he's pretty good.
He's such a small part of the movie.
Yes,
that
he
there's
is
no
a very
reason I
small
should have
part.
been like, hey, it was good.
And Michael B. Jordan killed it in that role.
Yeah.
How did he have time to be a good actor and be that buff?
I mean, when you're getting paid just to work out.
It's fair. It's fair.
Look, yeah, there's no reason why Black Panther should not have been on my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only reason I didn't put it up there is because that last fight scene.
It's bad.
It's
rough.
the CG in that
Yeah.
is pretty bad.
Well, that- and then
that's
every time
that's
you
how
have that
all of
water-
Aquaman looked to me. So that's why I don't like that movie. But
just shinier.
yeah.
Man, there were some good shots in that movie.
Ryan Coogler, man. Ryan
Champion.
Coogler has come out of the gate with Fruitvale Nation and Creed
Station.
Sorry,
Dude, I will
Fruitvale
watch
Nation.
that sequel.
Fruitfield Nation.
and then Black Panther and wow, the movie and then this late in the phases for Marvel, like Black Panther coming out and being this great and somewhat of a origin film, but not really because we kind of I don't know how you want to look at it or not, but
No, it's an origin. It's the first time that you hear his actual like origin,
yeah,
substantial way.
and then the the Killmonger of it all, that's just it's really
icing is very
great,
buff icing on the
yes,
cake.
with all those marks of every person
Yeah.
he's killed.
But no, it was such a good film. And like again, it's crazy that with every successive Marvel movie that came out this year, I had a hard time trying to convince people like, no, I really like this movie and it is genuinely good. I'm not just that comic book nerd.
Yeah,
Like I can't convince people that they're good because I sound like I'm just saying all of them are good.
right.
See, I just wish
this
that
year.
like Michael B. Jordan would have actually killed the other dude and just become the new Black Panther, because I thought his character was infinitely better than just about any other character. Well, the only other character that I liked better was actually Black Panther's sister, Shuri.
Shuri?
Yeah.
Like honestly, even if she just became the new Black Panther, I would be like, let's do this. Let's
Yeah.
make like 10 more movies,
Give
because
her the power of the
I
Black
thought.
Panther.
You have a problem. So you have a problem with T'Challa or with Chadwick Boseman?
I
You got
think
it, probably.
it's not really so much the character, and it's not. I don't even think it's necessarily him as an actor per se. I think it has more to do with the overall script, like because it's kind of his story, but not really.
It's true.
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like
He's,
and-
he's the forgettable part,
Right.
which is filled with so many great supporting characters, including the fantastic M'Baku. I forget his actor's
Yep.
name.
God, M'Baku,
Great
yeah.
character.
Well, and now
Every
he's
time
gonna-
he
And
came
he's gonna
on,
be in Us.
And us, yeah.
Yes, he is.
I
Papa.
stole it.
Yeah.
I stole it from you.
I
But no,
had commentary.
Angela Bassett too as T'Challa's mother, does a great job. I get what you're saying though, Richard, but I still feel like
nope. No, I'm just kidding.
I still feel like it's very much T'Challa's story because he has to learn that his father wasn't the end all be all great person that he thought he was. He has to be his own man. He has to be the king of Wakanda. And being the Black Panther is not all that there is for his people. He has to be a king.
But
And-
see, that already sounds like a better movie than what I watched.
But see that I feel like that is what I got, and I love the Killmonger story too. But I think too many people sit out there and be like, "Oh, well, Eric was right too. He's the one who was actually right." He's like, no, he wants Wakanda to fail. He's starting a war with the rest of the world so that Wakanda will be burned to ashes. And I think a lot of people oversee that.
I didn't say he had great motives. I'm
No,
not saying
no,
he's a
I-
good person. I just think he was
his story is more
infinitely
compelling.
more
Yeah, I get
compelling
it.
and engaging than what they did with T'Challa. And I think for a movie entitled Black Panther, it really should be more about Black Panther.
Well,
like that's
well,
kind of my problem.
Maybe
that I
that's
had
the
with
thing, though. Like, so again, this was kind of the origin.
Yes,
So
sure.
Like the movie being called Black Panther doesn't necessarily mean it has to revolve all around him, but we're seeing what made the Black Panther.
No,
Yes.
it's true. I just think that like for what they set up with him in God, what was the one before this?
Civil War?
Yeah. His character was so much cooler
Yeah,
in
he
Civil
was.
War.
He was.
And it was so much like better crafted and presented. And then in his own film, like he is just outshined by basically everyone that's around him. And I just think that's a huge disservice to the character.
I agree, Rich. I think you make a very valid point.
I'm
That's the
glad
way
we
I feel
set
as
the
well.
couch in this way. Because this took me out of punching range from Mitch. Because he can't hit me anymore because you're here. I'm
Is
loving
that coming to cry? Is this a cry? You stop hurting the boy. One of these days, Richard.
Okay, so that was your number 2.
Yeah, I don't
My-
want to be the first one. Okay, you're saying number 2s, right?
Yes.
We didn't go through all the number 2s yet.
No,
I got
just-
scared I was going to be the
just
first one
you
to say
and
1. I
Richard
don't want to be
have
the
done
first one
number
to say number 1.
If we go the way that I've been doing, I should be the first one to say number 1.
Okay, good.
So my number 2 was Rafa's number 4, Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Madman.
The fact that we had 3 directors on this movie and they all came together to make such a great movie that is super coherent, but then also drastically different from each other.
Yeah.
That in itself is an accomplishment.
I agree.
That I could not fathom.
Mm-hmm.
So you got director-wise Bob Perschetti, Peter Ramsey, Rodney Rothman. Rodney Rothman was a writer on David Letterman. He's the head writer for David Letterman for like a few years. Peter Ramsey is a storyboard artist, but also directed Rise of the Guardians. Bob Perschetti came straight from animation.
Damn.
Yeah, he was head animator for a lot of movies.
Huh.
First time directing for a lot of these people.
Yeah.
Phil Lord was a writer, but also producer.
Yeah.
So Lord and Miller were producers. Shamik Moore, actor. Jake Johnson, actor. Haley Steinfeld, actor. John Mulaney, you have to talk about him. His voice is so distinct in the movie.
Why John Mulaney? They didn't need to be John.
It didn't need to be, but
It works.
It works.
It worked
It
very
works.
well, yes.
Lily Tomlin, and then of course Chris Pine, and the way that they are able to. Oh, and Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Nick Cage of it all.
This is purple.
But the way that you get. So Spider-Man movies up till now, everybody's like, don't do the origin again. Don't do the origin again. This
And they
movie
just
says.
leaned into it
they
so hard.
steered right into that curve. It was like, hey, we're going to give you the origin 8 more times.
Yeah.
But they do it in such a fun way.
It is. It's so fun.
I want to point out the only movie with the stamp of the comics authority.
At the very beginning had me laughing. So, and then how each one of them is different type of Spider-Man, but still has that same core value, and it's shown on screen. The code switching that I've learned that this is a term that Miles Morales has to do when he goes from living
Code switching.
Yeah, when he's in Brooklyn, walking down the street, talking to his friends, and then going to the upscale school where he changes the way he talks and the way he acts.
I've never heard this
It's
term.
called code switching.
They use it a lot in like psychology. Like I know they reference it a lot for like kids and stuff, because usually when kids go to school, you're like, that's kind of your first endeavor into code switching, because you're having to learn to integrate into a different kind of like society than you do when you're at home with like your family unit. So like that's kind of one of the terms, or where it comes
I've
from.
never heard this term. I thought that's just what people did.
Well, see, and that's what I learned. I learned about
I
it
talk different when I
listening
read
to
the
people talk about this movie, and apparently it's more predominant in houses that come from people of color. You have to act a different way when you're around white people. Apparently,
Yeah,
well, did anybody watch Sorry to Bother You?
I did.
That's one of my honorable
So
mentions.
that's kind of one of the things that happens in that is like they're basically telling him like, hey, talk like a white guy and you will make more sales. And so like, yeah, I mean, it's just fascinating, but.
And I did love that
Side jump
in Sorry to Bother You. It's Donald Glover, Danny Glover's character says it's not about being white. It's about not having to worry about where your next paycheck's coming from. That's the white voice. And I was like, that's
a heavy sentence.
It's a very heavy sentence. Yeah.
Damn.
So, Spider-Verse, an amazing movie. My number 2. Apparently, since the other 2 of you haven't mentioned it yet, I'm guessing it went to number 1.
Number 1.
Same.
So, Rafa, what is your number 2?
All right, everybody, hold on to your britches. Let's go hang some witches. My number 2 is Hereditary.
Oh.
Hereditary is a movie that I heard a lot of buzz about, and I didn't really care for it. I love horror films. Going back and kind of looking through my channel, Rafa at the Movies on Twitter. Shameless plug. Go
There you
follow.
go. Make sure you follow it. He has the best
Thank
insight
you.
into movies.
The reason I did the Twitter is in order to rewatch old films and new films and put my 2 cents what I think, right? And I put it up there that way so I can go back and I can have a catalog of movies that I've seen or to rewatch. And looking back through it, I've realized that a good majority of my films are horror films. And I just realized that horror is one of those quintessential, talking about psychology. When we talk about that internal reason of why we go to the theater, some people want to get scared. We want to be told a story, and I love stories. And with Hereditary, it's one of those stories where this is by far one of, if not the scariest movie I've ever seen. It is on one of those concepts where it didn't need jump scares, but the slow tension building throughout that movie, I felt like I was developing a panic attack. And then the last 10 minutes is just a onslaught, nonstop, punch to the face. you're going straight into the bowels of hell. Just ride of my life that just kept me awake for days. It's one of those films where, especially in Hispanic culture, we learn a lot about the ideas of brujeria. And brujeria is witchcraft. And witchcraft is something you don't fuck with. Ever. I say the word brujeria, my mom will say,
She'd be
why
like,
are
no,
you,
Rafa,
why
like,
are you,
it's Voldemort.
she said,
It's
why,
Voldemort.
why are you bringing that into the house?
Yeah.
And on the kin of movies like Rosemary's Baby or Mother or these other kinds of movies, Hereditary does a lot of the same things where you're looking at it from the perspective of this family who have just gone through a terrible tragedy, which is something that is felt because everyone loses family members. And then you realize that the people you're supposed to trust the most are the ones that have secretly have your worst intentions in mind. And just, it's a giant fever dream. Whereas Mandy was violent and visceral, this movie is also visceral, but it's on a much more spiritual and psychological level where everything just hits you so hard and you're just wondering, can you really trust those that you love the most? It's a wonderful movie. I've watched it many times now. It still manages to scare me. And when we talk about new age horror films like It Follows, Suspiria with the remake that just came out this year, I think Hereditary is this part of this new onslaught of horror done right, and it's able to scare generations of people.
Did you watch Suspiria?
I did watch Suspiria.
Was it good?
I liked it.
Sorry,
I think
side note.
no, it's a lot like Mandy, where it's very up its own ass, or it's kind of like you can tell a lot of times like, oh, this is artsy on purpose.
Sure.
I don't think it's as good as the original Suspiria, but I enjoyed it. I think Tilda Swinton kills it as normal.
Nice. Perfect. Yeah,
She's great.
she's amazing. For sure.
But yeah, that's Hereditary. That's my number 2 for sure.
Anybody else have any other thoughts on Hereditary? Because I watched it, didn't care for it.
Didn't watch it.
I haven't seen it. It was on my list. I've heard a number of people tell me that I should watch it, and I mean, here you like that's the thing. Like both of you guys, like I always love your insight to film because I think it's always kind of a little bit different perspective. Even though you might be agreeing with either Mitch or myself, it's always like a different perspective as to why. So it's like always really fascinating to hear the insight from both of you. So like yeah, even more so, I'm excited to watch it after hearing you talk about it. Like I really want to dig
it's
into
not
it.
for everybody.
Sure.
Some people might not, because fear and horror is different for everybody. I spent this year watching a lot of more like Lovecraftian what's going on horror, like The Endless, which is on Netflix right now, which is really good. And these kinds of horrors scare me, but this kind of horror also scared me. So it really depends on what you fear and what you like. So
Yeah.
I loved it. Definitely my number 2.
All right. So now we're getting on to our number ones. Anything else anybody wanted to say before we get to those?
Aquaman wasn't a bad movie.
Yes, it was.
Rafa has to leave now. I'm sorry. Everybody could find out his number 1 on his Twitter. No, just joking. All right.
Go ahead. Press F to pay respects in chat.
So since we've already said your guys' 2 number 1s, you guys want to just talk a little bit more about Spider-Verse before we get to Rafa and mine?
The art.
Okay.
It's incredible. Truly, like an absolute masterpiece. No, like I've seen it twice now.
Okay.
The first time I watched it, towards the end of the movie, I started watching it trying to just like freeze frame everything and think, is this perfect in composition? Like, is it the whole like every frame of painting kind of thing? It is. It is. The whole second time I watched it, there was nothing that wasn't. It was ridiculous.
So the really interesting thing behind that, and I totally agree with you because like that is one of the first things that will grab you by the throat about this movie is the animation style in this is not like anything you've ever seen in a film before, and it really harkens back to like that 1970s like comic book vibe. It's not like completely overbearing, but there's like a subtle homage of it to this. But what's more interesting is like when you read about the process to it. I guess this film was loosely talked about back in like 2013, 2014 when that Sony hack happened. There was like, I guess one of the emails was that they were planning on revitalizing like the Spider-Man universe.
Yeah.
And I guess when they were kind of getting the team and everything together and they were talking about it, they were like, well, what do you guys want to do? And they were like, well, we need to do animated because there's only only so much you could do in a live action movie, so let's just take it completely animated. And I might not be 100% accurate on this, but from what I recall reading, they actually hired one animator, and he was the sole person that developed
Like the
in
visual
collaboration, but
Yeah.
he was the one that like worked with him for I think it was like 6 months straight, just developing the style, and
Yeah.
then from there it took them a year to get 10 seconds of usable footage that they were happy with, and the team eventually ended up blowing up to like 142 or 150 something in that ballpark animators.
Every artist I follow on Twitter is like, here's art from my time on Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Like, it's just so insane, like the amount of talent that they pulled, and and I think that might be the largest animation team that's come together under the umbrella of Sony.
Yeah, no, far and away. The only other kind of group that I would imagine has any kind of bigger team would be video games.
And I think that's important because it showcases this is a movie that was in all of our top fives. And it's a movie that was done with tender love and care. And if all of these people came together
sass.
to give us a beautiful piece of art, a beautiful origin story, a beautiful whatever you want to call it. Really what it is it's something that hundreds of people loved, put their time into, and as a collective whole made a product that all of us are here talking about right now. And I think there's something magical in that.
I agree.
I also I mean, I can't speak to the art in the same way you guys do, but the idea how they bring in a Kingpin that's a version of the Kingpin that's from a one certain type of book.
Yeah.
And then you have the Spider-Man that's another type, and then a noir Spider-Man, and then the anime character who's legitimately an anime character. Like,
Anime
Yeah.
Parker.
all these different styles of the characters in the movie are different, but yet the movie works.
There was a
It
part,
doesn't throw you off.
There's a part, you know, the scene from the trailer, the whole like when they're above the roommate. They're going back and
yeah.
forth. The person who had worked on that, they were like, "Listen, guys, this was the hardest shot I've ever worked on in my whole life. I worked 6 months on this one shot, and it just for that, and the fact that they even got that chance is insane."
And then
Yeah.
I was listening to something where they were talking about with the Spider Ham character, like that was they went back to the old hand drawn version of animation, and like they were like, nobody knows how to do this anymore, kind of thing. So
Come get me.
well, they had to reteach themselves how to do it
Yeah.
apparently for the movie. So like yeah, the patience or the passion they made that movie just it definitely puts it
Well,
in
and I think that even kind of ties back into the movie that you were talking about earlier that was with some of the people that had left or were a part of like Studio Ghibli. Like a big part of what they always say is like, because they've had people ask them like, why don't you guys go to 3D animation? You could do it so much faster than what you're doing hand animated. And for them, it's all about the tradition. It's all about passing on that knowledge and that respect for the art form. And so to hear that there's even kind of a little bit of that in this movie is also just another tiny little nugget of amazingness that this film really shines. I think, like, just to me, and I'm like, I don't know, this is like kind of like, maybe a little, I don't know, cliche or something to say this, but like for me, I feel like this is the best comic book movie that I have ever seen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just so well put together and so well handled that I it's just really hard to find anything in this movie to critique in a negative way,
It's pretty high up there for all time superhero movies.
Damn good.
Yeah. Okay, so my number one.
It's not Spider-Verse.
It's not Spider-Verse. And it's kind of a cheat because it actually came out at the end of last year, end of 2017. I just didn't get a chance to see it until 2018.
Don't say what it is.
Okay.
Guesses.
Any guesses?
End of last year.
Anybody at all?
End of last year. End of last.
I mean, I did tweet about it when I watched it in this year, and
No, then. No way.
he's been away from Twitter for so long.
Also, you guys in chat, feel free to drop your guesses.
Your guesses,
Yeah.
and I really felt so bad that I didn't see it. Once I watched it, I felt so bad that I didn't see it in 2017 because it was so great. So if there's nobody guessing, no possible.
Well, there's a bit of a delay. But
There is a
go
little bit
ahead.
of delay, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of holding out.
I don't know
Aquaman.
what my guess from the end of last year. I know that the only movie that I know that was actually end of last year was like Blade Runner 2049 because we just looked it up in the car.
Well, I
Yeah.
can guarantee it wasn't that because he hates Blade Runner.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, plus
so
we
it's
saw it in the
We
same
saw,
theater.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
like-
We
totally,
just saw it together.
totally not that.
So it's not that. It's
Was it Thor Ragnarok?
it was not Thor Ragnarok. Like this is literally the last couple weeks of 2017 when this came out. So that's why I think I didn't
So
see it.
I'm curious. There's no one in here has guessed.
Okay, well, So it was directed by Scott Cooper, who made Crazy Heart, Out of the Furnace, and Black Mass. And I love Crazy Heart and Out of the Furnace. I love Crazy Heart a lot more than I ever thought I would. Like it's a movie about
the movie with
Jeff Bridges, about country music.
got
Yeah,
the guitar.
yeah, and I really enjoyed it and I did not think I would. So this is written and directed by the same guy, Scott Cooper. Hostiles. Christian Bale and Rosamund Pike are your big two stars in that. It's set right after the Civil War. Yeah, something like that.
We'll go
So
with yes.
yeah, I want to say the Civil War, and Christian Bale is this Union soldier that has to relocate this Native American to his new home, the new area where their tribe is supposed to be, and it's all the stuff that they have to go through to get there. Christian Bale, I feel like Christian Bale's character in the movie has the true hero's journey, because he goes from being this despicable, terrible person who's straight up,
He's being racist as hell.
Racist, gun, war-ridden, just bad guy all around. And he is able to see past all that eventually and help these people that he has come to hate throughout most of his career. And I fell in love with everything about that movie, the way it was shot, the scenery, like even more so than what I saw in Reverend, which I thought was that he did a great job in making that movie and the way it looked. But it's just so good. Once again, another movie I didn't feel like enough people were talking about. And then all the points of view, all the different points of view of these characters, because Rosamund Pike's character, her whole family is killed
In the beginning?
at the very beginning of the movie by Native Americans. So she has to overcome that while she is with Christian Bale and moving on. And it's just, wow. It's just incredible movie.
I feel bad. I have no frame of reference for this one whatsoever.
I'm sorry. Like I said, it came out 2017, and
That's okay.
it was it just really moved me.
Our other buddy Matt, this was like his movie of 2017.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I haven't watched it. I wanted to watch it, but gosh, I'm so interested to check it out now, because that's the second person I've had tell me that this is such a great movie. So
Would you say that Matt and I usually agree on movies?
I don't know. We were just having this conversation in chat, actually, because Wizard was saying that he was surprised that you actually liked Crazy Heart. And I was like, are you, though? Are you surprised? And he's like, well, yeah, because it doesn't seem like a movie Mitch would like. And I'm like, but that's exactly why I'm not surprised. Mitch doesn't really have, a taste that you can just... One does not simply understand Mitch's taste in movies.
It's true. He's very unorthodox.
In movies, sure. I was going to say food, apparently just spicy.
Yeah. I just love spicy food.
Thing.
But no, yeah, Crazy. I was surprised when I watched Crazy Heart for the first time and thought I did enjoy the hell out of that movie. So you're not too far off, Wizard. Oh, there you. I don't point at the monitor. Point at the camera. Got it.
It's the man behind the curtain.
All right, Rafa, take us home. You're number one.
What? I didn't realize we hadn't gotten this. We talked about Aquaman so many times.
So my number one for sure was Aquaman. No. Again, I liked it. I thought it was a fun time, but for sure, it's not in my top 5. It's not in my top 10. For me, again, lots of reasons why you would go to the cinema, but really when you go to the cinema, it's a time to disconnect and to be told a story. Storytelling as an art form is something that changes and evolves, but it's always based down to the same thing. It's something that's told to you, something you listen to, something you see, something that you're able to become a part of. And when people add cool things like beautiful set pieces and great acting and wonderful colors and the cinematography and the movement and the soundtrack, all of those elements create something that you just love. That's the added piece that can make it art. And for me, this was already talked about, and I'm sorry, Mitch, but my number one goes to Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs.
Nice.
A lot of what you said, Rich, hits it right on the nose in the essence of the aspect that the fact that, one, it is stop motion is insane. But the thing for me is when I see this movie, It's a movie that you can tell what's going to happen from the beginning to the end. But like we talked about before, Wes Anderson tells stories in a way where it feels like it's awkwardly acted in a very deadpan way to create that illusion of this is a story, but it is a story. It's telling you a story. You'll be engrossed, but you'll always remember that quirkiness and that whimsical spirit. What I loved about this film is it not just cinematically is something beautiful to look at. We're talking about animations. This was a great year for animation. And what this thing does is it's able to combine that element with real life stop motion, with great performances by great actors. And it's something whereas I liked the color palette of the Royal Tenenbaums, or I enjoyed the spirit of the Darjeeling Limited, or I really enjoyed the wildness of Steve Zissou and his Life Aquatic, whatever it might be, or whether I like the set pieces of Moonrise Kingdom or the Grand Budapest Hotel. Isle of Dogs gave me something where it was a story of man's best friend, and how even the word itself, Isle of Dogs, when you say it fast, it comes off as I love dogs.
Aww.
And I think that in itself was something that was just beautiful, and there were so many great moments. And again, cinema is something that is different for everybody, but it's something that was able to enlighten me in a way where I had a great time watching throughout. And then by the end of it, I wanted more, to the point that I almost ordered a $500 version of the movie that comes with the movie, and then 5 of the action figures that come with the 6.
God.
5 of the dogs, and then the actual Atari kid.
Wait, what?
It's on eBay.
What?
That's amazing.
They only made it in Japan, and there's only so many. So I almost bought this yesterday, but I didn't. So
To the internet.
You're right. And I've got 2. And it broke.
They're so expensive.
so expensive. But that's the beauty of it. It's a story that's told to you, and whether it is something like Mandy or Spider-Man or any of these other wonderful films, the fact that it has a real visceral reaction from you, I think says a lot. And the fact that we're able to sit down and talk about these things, and hopefully those of you in the chat, you know, the movies that you've seen, and they've made you feel these moments of elation, you know, I think there's something really special in that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So, I mean, yeah, you guys already talked about Isle of Dogs earlier. I honestly thought there was going to be more of argument between all of us. Not that we love to argue with each other, but I just knew that we were all going to be pretty different. And I think we did bring different stuff, but we definitely...
For you podcast listeners, he's currently attacking him.
We definitely... Yeah, I love that we were able to come together and talk about these movies. And we came up with lists that were same, but also different.
Yeah.
So...
Into the Spider-Verse is the only one that we all had, though, right?
Yeah, I think it's the only one that we all had.
So I think that declares it best movie of the year.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty close.
Yes.
If you learn nothing else, go watch that movie.
Go watch that movie. Actually, if you learned anything else, watch the movies on my list. Don't worry about anybody else's.
Oh,
I think that pretty soundly means you learn nothing.
Oh.
But even with movies we watch now, what are things that we look forward to in the future? Because that's the thing that leads us to the next part, right? And what do you guys think? What are some movies that you want to watch next year?
Right now, I don't know. There's so many things that are upcoming. I'm just kind of like letting media and whatnot wash over me. I'm not trying to keep track of deadlines so much anymore. Not deadlines, like release dates.
Release dates, premiere dates.
Yeah, I'm just letting them happen.
I know I'm definitely looking forward to Glass, which I don't have to wait that long. That's going to be right here in January.
Yep.
In game, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see how I
Oh,
cannot.
that teaser is so good.
Shazam, I think is
Shazam.
going to be look good. Is going to be great.
Looks like fun.
We got to call out in chat for Godzilla. Which
Godzilla,
Godzilla looks
King of
good.
Monsters.
If you have not seen Shin Godzilla, please do.
Shin Godzilla's really
Please do.
good.
It's so good.
I'm excited for It Chapter 2. I
It
love
Chapter
It
2,
Chapter
yeah.
1. Great film.
And I feel like the second part, the second chapter with the adults is going to be so much better.
Oh, I agree.
Like I love the first one. Or I don't love it. I really like the first one, but I feel like the second chapter.
I think this one's going to be more balls to the walls. Just
Yeah.
It's going to hit hard. I really want to watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That's right. That
That's coming
Tarantino movie is going to be because the last Tarantino movie left me not too happy.
Was that Hateful Eight?
Hateful Eight? Yeah. So I am super excited about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, you got Brad Pitt and you got Leonardo DiCaprio.
Tom Cruise.
Oh, Tom Cruise is in it?
Isn't he Tom Cruise? Yeah, Tom Cruise is in it too.
I think everybody's in
Everybody
I'm
is in that
excited.
movie.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
looking pretty crazy.
because
So-
Margot Robbie's also in it. She's playing Sharon Tate, right? Yeah.
She is.
Yeah.
I'm hyped to see Pet Sematary. As much as so I like Stephen King, he's okay. Pet Sematary, though, it's not even acquired taste. It's kind of a shitty movie. I still love that movie. I don't know why. If it's on, I'll put it on. I'll watch it all the time. Don't go down that route.
I feel like it's gonna teach another generation of kids how to improperly
Spell it
spell
wrong.
cemetery.
That.
It's going
But
to happen.
the trailers have been good. And again, talking about horror, I mean, Jordan Peele's next movie, Us.
Us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one. That's actually true. That's one that I'm anxiously waiting
That
for.
trailer dropping on Christmas is just wow.
Yeah.
Also, what a great way to market something. To be the only trailer that drops that's going to be like that
Yeah.
while everyone's with their family.
Yep.
So 800 people who otherwise wouldn't have heard about this movie heard about that movie.
That's
True.
right.
It's true.
Genius.
Hey, Richard, do you have any movies anticipating for?
I don't know, man. Like it's really difficult for me because like I don't know. I've kind of grown pretty tired of the comic book wave. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know. I hate kind of saying that because like. Obviously, I'm gonna go watch them. I mean, like we make that joke all the time where we're like trash talking a movie, and then it's like, "Oh, you're gonna watch them?" Like, yeah, I'm gonna go. Totally. So I mean, like I know I'm gonna go watch them, but like I don't know. It's just crazy because like literally next year, just looking at movies that are coming out, it's like Avengers, Endgame, Captain Marvel, Dark Phoenix, Shazam. You know, another flippin' Star Wars movie, which again, I'm like kind of over that. Like I don't know. I think that's kind of why. I don't know. I think like I've been trying to get more and more back into like smaller films, like a lot of stuff that like A24 is doing and things like that because because I mean like it just feels like they're doing something so counter programming to everyone else that's happening, and to me that's just really refreshing because like the market as a whole is just so oversaturated. But it's ironic because my number one movie is Into the Spider-Verse, which is a comic book movie. So
I feel weird about it.
yeah, but I mean, like, it's just crazy because you look at this stuff coming out, and I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna go watch them, but I'm not like super hyped for any of them. I'm excited for John Wick Chapter 3. I think that's gonna be good, but I mean. The second one was good, not as good as the
Top Gun
first
2?
one. You know what I mean? So
Did that get pushed back? Didn't it?
I think it did.
I think it did. Yeah.
Oh, the whole soundtrack is just Danger Zone.
But covered by a bunch of different people.
Right?
Is
Yeah.
Kenny Loggins still alive?
I think so.
Can we, just
Oh,
get, can we
man.
get K-Log back?
I'm sure he will.
I imagine he'll be coming around. But no, like I
When he
don't know.
comes.
I'm just kind of like over that. You know what I mean? Because like even this year, you look at like most of like it was so funny. So this is kind of a side thing, but I was taking a Lyft to work. And I had a Lyft driver point this out to me. He was like super huge into movies and everything, and we were just talking about films, and he was just like, "It's so unfortunate where we're at, like with the amount of comic book movies that are coming out." And he was like, "Think about the movies that were released in 1993." And I'm gonna pull up a list here real quick.
Are we talking about things like original properties versus things that are in a franchise?
Just movies in general.
Just yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with it really being like because it's the thing, like it's not because they're like recirculating it's not because it's not a new intellectual property. It's just like I'm personally getting burnt out on them.
Yeah.
But so like in 1993 we had Jurassic Park, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Schindler's List, Falling Down, Tombstone, Cool Running, Demolition Man, The Fugitive, Groundhog Day, Mrs. Doubtfire, The Sandlot, The Firm, Rudy, A Bronx Tale, Philadelphia, Carlito's Way, The Piano, True Romance, like Robin Hood Men in Tights, The Addams Family Values, you know what I mean? Sleepless in Seattle, Grumpy Old Man. Like there's just this huge like never-ending list like of really, really good movies. And, like, if you look at the same one for this year, like, 90% of it is just comic book movies.
Well, that's what that looks like. But that's also
Sure.
because of the way that things are judged. You were just talking
Sure.
earlier about the thing where that one movie was taken out of the running for getting Academy Awards.
Sure.
Because it didn't show in theaters. There are people who are making great things that are just like a YouTube original.
Or Netflix
Any of
originals.
those A24
Bird Box went
A24
to,
films.
to to Netflix like this year.
But are those really movies?
But
That's not a real question.
I haven't seen.
but
I
even
haven't
look
seen Bird Box yet, but and that's fair. Like that's a totally fair assessment. But it's just like what you were saying though. Like to me, that also it feels a little cheap as well because I love that theater experience. And
No,
like,
you're
that
right, but-
Sucks that I can't get that experience with Bird Box because I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Do you think that that's like so? There's a big thing that a question that I have about this
Sure.
whole process is that I don't know if theaters might have done this to themselves.
Yeah, because it costs so much to go see a movie. You want a reason to be at the movie
Yeah.
theater. Like you need that big sound. You need that big picture. You know, I can watch a courtroom drama at home. I don't need the big fucking stereo system at the theater for that.
Yeah.
Like Instant Family, though I did enjoy watching that movie in the theater, I didn't need to see it in the theater. I could have watched that easily at my home.
Because the one that I look at for the stuff is so as people who play video games, have you seen like what the insane amount of releases are that happen every single week on the Nintendo Switch?
Yeah, there's a crap
It's-
ton.
An incredible amount of games that come out, and they're things that aren't being released. They're games that are coming straight to PC and Switch because they're making them easy to release onto. They're games like Gris that came out recently.
Yep.
A fucking gorgeous, phenomenal game.
Amazing
Not
soundtrack
on
as well.
PlayStation or Xbox One.
I'm not-
It's only there on PC and Switch because they make it easy for them to be there.
Right.
And so I think, and some of the best pieces of art don't necessarily have a ton of money that they're going to make.
Oh no, a lot of
And
them don't.
so I think things don't get money for
But I
being
think-
put into these bigger things.
I think the studios have also and us as movie watchers have also played a big role in this too. Like we've made it even harder or almost impossible for a lot of those really small indie films to make their way to. And that's kind of more what I'm like getting at with this is like you look at that and like those have all become kind of like iconic films. And I mean like the list is even longer than that. That's just like a
Yeah.
small sample of what I have. But like that I think is also what's kind of disheartening about the whole situation is that it is really difficult for a small indie movie that might be something kind of like what Mitch was talking about, the movie with Christian Bale and stuff like that. Like, it's probably really difficult for that movie to even get into theaters now. And I just find that to me is really disheartening because I get it. Yeah, there's a lot of movies you don't need a theater experience to go see, but there's a ton of movies that you are missing the opportunity to even have that experience. And that's part of it. I think the other part of it too, and this is where it's like difficult to kind of chastise that, but for creatives though, the more and more exclusivity that we are going to start seeing through all the like streaming platforms that are breaking off, the better and better that is for creatives that are making that type of content.
There's
you know
money
what I mean?
for it.
Right. And so like that's my only hope. But you had kind of made that comment before we even started, and I thought it was so fascinating because I felt it was also really true for me. More of what I watched this year was shows and less movies.
Well,
and
'cause
so I think that's just really fascinating. I just wanted to bring that up and point that out and have a conversation about it while we're here. But
Yeah, that was actually one of the things. I was sad not to be able to like honorable mention Maniac because it's not a movie, but it's a TV show and it was fantastic.
yeah.
He's a good actor.
not.
I understand why you hate.
Not.
So if you've learned anything, everybody watching this right now, tell Hollywood that we need a Gremlins 3. I know you want it.
That's
want
the
it.
name of the episode.
That's not where I thought this was gonna be. That sentence was gonna go, but
We've heard it 3. Gremlins 3 confirmed.
here you heard it.
We're getting Gremlins 3 before we get Half-Life 3 and Portal 3. What the fuck?
And Team Fortress 3.
All right, so I want to say thank you for everyone that stuck with us, and you know we ended up going an hour later than we had planned. Technical difficulties, but we got it to work. We were up live. Thank you for joining us during this holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. We hope to see you in the coming year. We're going to have a lot more going on, Geekly Radio wise, or what will be called soon. We'll reveal that at the beginning of the year. I hope that
I've heard
you
some
guys
things.
will come back and join us in more stuff. Well,
Of course.
Steven's obviously going to be more part of Geek Elite as
You
time
took me to
goes
go
on.
watch Aquaman.
I did. I made you go watch it, and Rafa knows that he's always welcome here.
And I love being part of this community because this is a community that showcases that they care about things that exist, whether it's music, video games, nerd culture. It's one of those things where you can have all these things, you can buy all these comics, you can get all these action figures, but what's the point if you don't have someone to share it with?
That's right. Someone to talk it out with. So, Rafa, why don't you go ahead and plug some of your social media that we haven't
All
plugged
right.
yet?
If you want to go see some good ass movies, go see Rafa at the Movies on Twitter. But my normal one is Mobile Rafi on Twitter. That's where I kind of post about things that I think are cool and most of my comic book stuff. And then on top of that, please check me out on YouTube under
Yes.
Mobile Rafi. I review action figures. I review anything that I just think is fun. And sometimes I just showcase my adventures. It's really a tool for me to chronicleize the things that I'm doing now because eventually I'm going to be old and not be able to move. Unless I get
Happens
robot
to the
parts.
best
So the whole idea is something that I can
Robot
maybe one day
parts.
show my children, or worst case, something that I can just go back and go, that was a dope toy.
Steven's still not on social media?
No, but you can find me drawing weekly on twitch.tv/TENSPD. We draw live together right now. After that, you can find me on twitch.tv/mod20gaming. That's 2 and a 0 in the middle.
Now, what's the thing
You
that
should
you
drop
always?
the links in the chat too.
Yeah, I got you guys.
What's the thing that you always say though when we're doing our poker games though? Oh, also we'll have our poker game this Saturday. You know, so anybody that wants to watch.
That's this Saturday,
Yeah, that's
man.
this Saturday.
I'm not keeping up.
Usually about 7:00 Arizona time.
So over here in chat, Psycho Slim earlier, I believe, said that he was going to win the poker game.
He did.
We'll see.
Or they did.
We'll see about that.
Yeah.
But no, what is it that you?
If
always,
you have have Amazon Prime, you have Twitch Prime.
there we go.
Yes.
No, I don't think you guys are affiliates.
All right, whatever.
Are you an affiliate?
I am an
Richard
affiliate.
If you
is. So
guys
you-
have Amazon Prime, you have Twitch Prime, which means you can take $5 back of the money that you already give to Amazon every single month. Reach into Jeff Bezos' very warm, very expensive Chanel pockets, pull $5 back out, give it to him over there.
Oh, my
Twitch.tv/RICOWN, correct?
And the number one.
And a number one.
There you go.
Give money to him. The only bad news about that is it does not roll over automatically every single month. If you can help him out and make sure and go click that button manually at least once that month, you'd be a sweetheart.
And
What a hype man.
there you go. That takes you right over to Richard. Richard, go ahead and spell it out again for them.
Well, there it is. I am on Twitter as well, which is just at Rycohen. It's on the hat, RICOWN. And then, like Stephen was saying, is twitch.tv/Rycohen and the number one. So, yeah. I'm there pretty much every... Well, I don't know. The next month's looking a little hairy already because I am going to be...
Classic streamer stuff over there.
Right.
That's
Seriously,
classic
yeah.
streamer talk.
I am going to be... I have some work stuff going on, so next month's going to be a little rough. But typically I'm there every Wednesday and Sunday at 2 p.m. Arizona time. So yeah.
So
Awesome.
if you want to talk to me, I'm on Twitter as at Mitchipedia GER. The GER is for Geek Elite Radio. The rest of Geek Elite Radio is at Geek Elite Radio on Twitter, at Geek Elite Radio on Instagram, Facebook.com/Geek Elite Radio is our Facebook page, and GeekEliteRadio.com is our website. Check out archived episodes of this podcast and other podcasts on the Geek Elite Radio Network. If you want us to do more live tapings like this and hopefully be on time, tell us. Go
Try our best.
We'll try our best. Go to one of our social medias, either Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and tell us if you enjoyed it or not. Or I guess, or on Twitch. I need to learn Twitch. I need you to teach me how to use Twitch.
I got you.
Okay.
I'll be here.
But as always, until next time, this is the Mitch and Rich Show on the Geek Elite Radio Network saying, always remember to
Geek out. Wow, we did that live.
We did that
We
live.
did that live, and all of us
Live.
were perfect.
We need to. So, we're still live.
We are still live.
Oh,
yes.
you're supposed to.
Hashtag Gremlins Rising. Get it done, Hollywood. Get it done.
Hell yeah.
Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.